Want breadfruit? Just tell me if you want breadfruit. Breadfruit.
Breadfruit, breadfruit, roast breadfruit, fry breadfruit, breadfruit.
I must just swap the breadfruit them round there.
Cool kid, them some breadfruit make you covered, but them have a beer if you catch up on ya. Escobar, say I eat.
You want get a breadfruit? Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Just tell me if you want breadfruit. Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Catch it down to them called breadfruit. Watch it down. Roast or fry, roast or fry. Catch it down. Roast or fry, roast or fry. Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Tell me if you want roast breadfruit. See it there? You want breadfruit? Just tell me if you want breadfruit. Breadfruit.
Breadfruit, breadfruit, roast breadfruit, fry breadfruit, breadfruit.
I must just swap the breadfruit them round there.
Cool kid, them some breadfruit make you covered, but them have a beer if you catch up on ya. Escobar, say I eat.
You want get a breadfruit? Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Just tell me if you want breadfruit. Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Catch it down to them called breadfruit. Watch it down. Roast or fry, roast or fry. Catch it down. Roast or fry, roast or fry. Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Tell me if you want roast breadfruit. See it there? You want breadfruit? Just tell me if you want breadfruit. Breadfruit.
Breadfruit, breadfruit, roast breadfruit, fry breadfruit, breadfruit.
I must just swap the breadfruit them round there.
Cool kid, them some breadfruit make you covered, but them have a beer if you catch up on ya. Escobar, say I eat.
You want get a breadfruit? Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Just tell me if you want breadfruit. Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Catch it down to them called breadfruit. Watch it down. Roast or fry, roast or fry. Catch it down. Roast or fry, roast or fry. Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Tell me if you want roast breadfruit. See it there? You want breadfruit? Just tell me if you want breadfruit. Breadfruit.
Breadfruit, breadfruit, roast breadfruit, fry breadfruit, breadfruit.
I must just swap the breadfruit them round there.
Cool kid, them some breadfruit make you covered, but them have a beer if you catch up on ya. Escobar, say I eat.
You want get a breadfruit? Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Just tell me if you want breadfruit. Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Catch it down to them called breadfruit. Watch it down. Roast or fry, roast or fry. Catch it down. Roast or fry, roast or fry. Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Tell me if you want roast breadfruit. See it there? You want breadfruit? Just tell me.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another session of our online biodiversity awareness program. My name is Tiona Thomas, Museum Programs Officer here at the Natural History Museum of Jamaica, and I'll be the host for today's session, right? So far, we've had wonderful sessions. We've learned about composting, learn about parts of a plant, learn about pests and weed, birds in our garden, and today we'll be learning about something new and interesting, right? So we're in collaboration with Highway 2000 East-West, right? And the theme is cleaner is greener, gardening, and me. And on the videos that have been playing so far, we're gonna learn about the breadfruit today, right? And the topic is tracing the development of breadfruit value-added products, right? I am excited to learn about how we can use breadfruit to make value-added products, apart from just roast and fry or boiling. But before we should learn about all of these interesting things, we're going to hear a few of the sayings that Jamaicans have about breadfruit and learn some of the proverbs surrounding breadfruit.
The first Jamaican saying on the slide goes as follows: breadfruit make you coward. This can be heard often by country people because they believe when you eat too much breadfruit, it allows you to see ghosts. We're going to go to Jamaican saying number 2. The breadfruit stem tells the end of the world. What does that mean? This is referring to the stalk of the breadfruit, where there is a C shape that is seen when it is cut. So it is said that the shape closes and forms a 0 when the world has come to an end. So we're going to be going on to our first Jamaican proverb now, and it goes as follows: the more you chop breadfruit root, the more it spring up. And that actually means that Jamaicans see breadfruit as a symbol of persistence, and that's based on the fact that the trees have activity and the way that they're able to propagate themselves by sending up suckers from the root. And it has been said that when a breadfruit goes through a lot of stress, for example, the passage of a hurricane or some other natural disaster, whenever there are parts of it that are broken off, those are the parts that actually spring up. So we're going to look at our second Jamaican proverb, and it goes as follows: no make goat watchman for breadfruit tree, or no make goat trusty for breadfruit tree. And that means that it's referring to the occurrence of in nature of the goats as heavy feeders, which if they get onto a breadfruit plant will devour it right down to the ground. And it represents, so the goat represents a dishonest person who is entrusted with valuable things, such as a security guard or a watchman who steals from the property that he's supposed to be watching. The first Jamaican saying on the slide goes as follows: breadfruit
All right, so we've learned some interesting proverbs and sayings about the breadfruit, right? So now I am going to invite our guest presenter for today, who is Miss Karlene Johnson, owner and operator of Something Country, right, located in St. Catherine, who will be our presenter for today's session. Ms. Johnson, I hand over to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I am Karlene Johnson, and I'm happy to be here with you to talk about the breadfruit and tracing how we have come or evolved to accept breadfruit. If you hear a little noise in the background, I'm near to the road. Sorry about the traffic, but it's how it is. I'm going to try my best to make sure everything is good. All right, so I'll be telling you a little about the breadfruit, but before I do, I'll just share a little about who I am. So I am Karlene Johnson, and I am someone who is baking right now, and I'm using the breadfruit. Now, a lot of persons would say baking with breadfruit, and as we know, you were listening to the song just before about roast and fry and all of that, and we even have songs and dances about the breadfruit. But I must say, this is one of our most underutilized food in Jamaica right now. So how could it be underutilized? And what do I mean by underutilized? So for our younger viewers, yes, you may have breadfruit roasted and put on your plate with the nice ackee and saltfish, or you might have had breadfruit that is boiled in the soup And for that, most persons, that's the air all and end all of how they have eaten it. But do you know how the breadfruit came here, why it came here, how it has been used and viewed over time? These are some of the things we're going to look at. And what's the new mindset towards breadfruit and how we plan to even evolve more and to accept this food and to turn it into a superfood, one that is readily available on all our shelves and can be had in many different forms. Now, I know you were listening to the song Breadfruit before, and I want to share that song with you again and even ask a few questions to trigger, some thought processes going on. So our lovely Jamaican singers, they were singing about breadfruit. And I'm going to see if I can bring up that song for you. And so we are going to talk about it just a little before we go into the history of breadfruit. Right, where internet is giving a little problem. So we're seeing if we can work with that.
Cool kid, them some breadfruit make you go on, but them have a beer if you catch a one ya. Escobar, say I eat.
You want get a breadfruit? Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Just tell me if you want breadfruit. Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Catch it down to them called breadfruit. Watch it dance. Roast or fry, roast or fry. Catch it dance. Roast or fry, roast or fry. Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Tell me if you want roast breadfruit. See it there? Now me a line a blip. Gyal a come for the breadfruit limb. Ching a sing, everybody dancing. All gyal too, me no do the man barring. Breadfruit a roast, everybody get around. The shot says she love off the breadfruit soul. Too hot ching hot when this trap. Breadfruit have a raise down a tone. Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Just tell me if you want breadfruit. Breadfruit. You want breadfruit? Catch it down to them called breadfruit. Watch it dance. Roast or fry, roast or fry. Catch it down. Roast or fry, roast or fry. Breadfruit.
Very, very catchy song and had us dancing and all of that. And we would say, okay, we know the roast and fry. And if you go downtown or you go into the towns, you can now have breadfruit roasted for you and you can buy it and all of that. So, but there's something that started in this video and the gentleman says that breadfruit makes us coward. Now, I wonder where that stigma about breadfruit came from. And I'm going to give you a little history about how breadfruit came here and you can understand why is it that some people had the whole idea that breadfruit made us coward. Now, we know the history of Captain Bligh, but
turn up.
Hi, Karlene. We're not hearing you. Can you unmute, please?
sorry about that, everybody. All right. I don't know how much you heard, but after that song, I said everybody must have been jigging because it's a popular Jamaican song that gets us moving and grooving. And we're grooving to breadfruit, right? No, many of us, as I said, we have had our roast breadfruit and our boiled breadfruit. And breadfruit prices is going up. And I wonder why, because a lot of persons now are roasting it and putting on the road. Now, at the beginning of the song, our lovely singer, he said that breadfruit made us coward. And a lot of people now need to get over that fear and get brave. And he was, he's not only talking about breadfruit in that song, but we won't get into all of that. We're just focusing on the breadfruit now. So he says that breadfruit can now make you be brave. But where does the stigma for breadfruit making you coward come from? And I'm going to give you a little history about how breadfruit came here and why people are saying breadfruit used to make them coward, right? So Captain Bligh, we know that name. He's one of those shipmen who had explored and he had taken a lot of different fruits to Jamaica, the Otaheite apple and all sorts of different fruits he had brought to Jamaica to help to feed the population. And one of the fruit that he brought to Jamaica was the breadfruit. Now, in the 18th century, we had a lot of droughts, and we know that this is a time of slavery where you had the plantation masters and you had the slaves. And during that time, there were a lot of droughts, and they had suffered from hurricanes, and the food supply had gone short. Now, years before, they had been talking about this wonder tree that bared bread on the tree. Now, could you imagine a tree that bears bread? What could be better for feeding a large group of people than a tree that produces ready-to-eat bread? All you need to do is just add it to the fire, and you have that dense, rich, white flesh or yellowish flesh becoming something that's nutrient-rich and could feed a large group. One tree produces hundreds of fruits, and one fruit can feed a family, because I'm sure most of us do not eat one whole breadfruit by ourselves. We have to cut it and share it up. So maybe even four persons to a breadfruit. Unless you're a breadfruit lover, then you will corner off the entire breadfruit for yourself.
Karlene, if it's sweet, if the breadfruit's sweet, we can eat one.
Okay, so if the breadfruit has that nice, buttery, sweet taste, then, and I know a lot of Jamaicans like to put it in the sun and get it near to that ripened stage where the sweetness is all up, and then they will eat it almost by itself. So breadfruit came as a means to feed the slaves into the Caribbean. Do you think the slaves wanted to eat it at that time? No, they did not know this food because it did not come from the part of Africa that they were from. It came from, most of these breadfruit came from Tahiti, and they didn't know it. So when it came, it was a totally new thing, and persons were like, I don't want to try that. Maybe the plantation owners want to kill us. Yeah, you must understand, slavery comes with a whole set of different things on the mentality because they are going through hardships. So people will be thinking all sorts of different things. And breadfruit got stigmatized. So a lot of people, and that word stigmatized, there are certain beliefs now that are attached to the breadfruit. So a lot of people in that time, they saw breadfruit as the food for the slaves, and nobody wanted to be branded with slavery. So there was an aversion to it. Now, when the breadfruit came, it came to Port Royal and came to Port Morant and the Bath Botanical Gardens. So if you want to go down there, you can go and explore. One of the trees that was planted from all those years ago, it died, but there are young ones that came up after. So you can always go and explore. And they brought different species here. And the breadfruit loved Jamaica and it loved the Caribbean. What do I mean by that? The tree grew well and produced well here. And over time, persons started accepting the breadfruit more and more. But yet you'd still hear 1 and 2 persons still holding on to, I don't eat breadfruit because breadfruit makes you coward. I don't eat breadfruit because breadfruit is coming from the slavery days and the stigma of all of that. Now, over time, we had people who came up. As I said, breadfruit is not new. You have in Haiti, no. You have in the Hawaii Islands, they call it ulu, U-L-U, and they have been using breadfruit in many ways. And they would make it into breads, they would make it into different things. Now, we in Jamaica, we decided, small group of persons, particularly Ike and Mary McLaughlin, who they wanted to help to feed a lot of people, because you know that all over the world, there are different things that are happening. And if we should look to our neighbor, Haiti, then we will know that over there by Haiti, they have suffered from major hurricanes, they have suffered from major earthquakes. And they have also had a depletion of their trees from the mountainsides. And because of that, they have had a lot of land slippages and soil erosion. And I know that you're looking at the garden and you must know about soil erosion and you must know about the balancing of carbon and all of this, for which trees are magnificent in creating a balance. Now, the breadfruit tree is particularly excellent at that because it's a big tree and it would use the carbon in its structure to make the trunks and use it to create the fruits. And it helps with the whole carbon cycle. And I know for those grade 4 and 6 students and 5 students, you know about the carbon cycle. So even learning about the breadfruit should help you to prepare for your exams, right? So this tree now, there are also a lot of things that are attached to this tree, a lot of folklore, and I heard some of them being mentioned, but not only the folklore, but medicinal value to this tree. Even that little part we call the sword, that's the young, undeveloped breadfruit, can be used. People used to boil it with ginger and sugar, and they would make what we call mixed spice. They would add orange peels, they would add different peels to it and put it in the wedding cakes and put it in the fruit buns and all of that. So people have been using breadfruit in different ways a long time ago. But in the last couple of years, from about 2016, there has been a thrust to do breadfruit flour and to do value-added products from breadfruit. And I want to show you a little clip right now about the breadfruit flour. And I mentioned a group that is doing the breadfruit flour. They're called Trees That Feed. No, they have been helping to plant trees all around the world to help to feed hungry persons. And not only that, but to help with the whole heat balance of the world, because you know how trees help to absorb heat and absorb all sorts of different carbons and different things and create oxygen and create that balance. Remember, we're talking about the balance. So I want you to just view this short little clip, and it's from Trees That Feed, and they are looking at making breadfruit flour. Now, why breadfruit flour? The flour can be the base for many, many different products. So a breadfruit doesn't normally live very long after it is fit. And when I say live very long, it can get spoiled very easily. So the shelf life of just the fruit, it goes very, very quickly. But if you turn it into flour, then it can stay for years if it is stored in a cool place. So we're looking at how we can lengthen the life of the breadfruit. And I'm just going to show you this little clip.
This is a video on how to make breadfruit flour from fruit. Breadfruit, like many fruits, does not store for a long period of time. Turning the fruit into flour lengthens the shelf life of breadfruit. You can turn the flour into gluten-free baked goods to feed a family or a business. So whether you're making fruit flour to feed your family or for a business, this video will show you how to do it. To make flour, you can use these 3 steps: shredding, drying, and grinding. For shredding, you'll use a shredder to create smaller pieces of breadfruit that can dry quicker. For drying, you'll use a dryer to remove moisture from the fruit. And for grinding, you'll use a grinder to turn dried shreds into flour. You'll also need accessories like trays, gloves, hairnets, knives, cleaning supplies, weighing scales, food-safe packaging, and labels. The equipment that you will need is going to be as follows for a small, medium, and large-scale business. For a small-scale operation, this is often with a home garden used to feed family. For this, you'll need a shredder, such as a hand grater. You'll need a dryer. For this, you can do outdoor drying as long as it's clean. You'll also need a grinder, like a mortar and pestle, or you can use a hand mill like the Country Living Mill. For a mid-size operation, this is often new small business owners seeking economic benefits. For this, you'll need a shredder and you can use a handheld shredder like the Nemco shredder. You'll also need a dryer like the Trees That Feed Foundation's hybrid solar dryer, and a grinder. You can use an electric grinder like the Nutrimill, or you can use a motorized country living grain mill. For a large-scale operation, this is often for commercial production of flour. For this, you'll need a shredder like the RoboCoupe commercial-grade shredder. You'll need a dryer, and you can use a propane drying oven, or you can also use shipping containers with supplemental heating that operate as a solar dryer. You'll also need a grinder, such as the Panagos grinder. If you're a large-scale operation, don't forget you'll also need to find customers to sell your flour to, and you'll need nice, attractive packaging for your flour. Now you can enjoy breadfruit year-round. You can try new recipes using breadfruit flour, and here are some commercial products that have been made with flour. For more information on equipment pricing, our hybrid solar dryer, or recipes for using breadfruit flour, please visit our website at treesthatfeed.org. You can also watch cooking videos on...
Okay, I want to thank Trees That Feed for that video clip. And that is telling us about one of the ways that have made the breadfruit, that fruit that normally spoils so easily, become a more versatile product. And by using the fruit itself, by using the fruit and turning it into flour, now we have a base or something that we can use to turn into myriads of products, right? And in that video, you would have noticed that we're showing clips from different places. Some of those places are in Haiti, somewhere in Jamaica, and somewhere in different parts of the world as well. So I will be showing you a little clip from Haiti further on, how they have been using their flour. Now I'll tell you about my company, which is Something Country, and we make our flour, and we have gone into making other products. Some of them are traditional Jamaican products that people know and love, such as bullas. Now, a lot of people know bullas, but when you say breadfruit bulla, then that's something else. And here is a little sneak peek into our bakery, and we're going to show you, we are actually in the process of making the bullas and doing all of that. So take a little sneak peek, not long, 46 seconds long.
This is a typical day at the bakery. So here we are making breadfruit oatmeal cookie. We are weighing all our weighing to get everything ready to bake. And we have Mika at the machine, and she's here mixing up our dough right now, and we can see it getting all churned together to make the bullas. So we are in progress.
Okay,
right
thank you. Now, as I said, that's just a typical day, and we are using up the breadfruit flour, and we are making a typical Jamaican treat, which now has a new spin. And that new spin is that it has breadfruit as its base. Now, breadfruit is packed with nutrients. It is not bleached, or flour, they're not bleached. So all the nutritive value that is good for your brain and for the development of your body, and it's to help you have a good balanced dietary vitamin spread in your body, then the breadfruit is good for that. Now, I mentioned before that Haiti is also using breadfruit, and a lot of trees were donated to Haiti, and these trees are now bearing. And from the fruits that are there, they have turned it into flour. And this is one of the small bakeries that is offering not only food for people to eat, but offering economical and financial stability for families is this bakery right here. So it is small, but it is turning out volumes. So what I want you to understand is not because something is small means that it cannot produce. It's how you use what you have, right? So they are using what they have. And remember, these persons, a lot of them, they have suffered from the hurricanes, they have suffered from the earthquakes, and they have had to be resilient. They had to fight back, and they were making some products, one of them called a compart, which is similar to the bulla. And during the earthquake and after, the aftermath where persons lost everything, this little bakery, they sent out products into the community and they distributed them, and those helped to feed a lot of persons. So you see, it's not only doing an economical value, but it's also doing an altruistic type of thing. And altruistic means doing the good for the good of it, right? So you can do things to also benefit others, not just looking for money. And that was one of the things. So a lot of the products were donated to community persons who had suffered during the earthquake. So we're going to just roll that. That's not long either. And that's the brick oven they have there. And it's a family affair, you notice. We have the kids there too, and everybody in Haiti working. So entire community has now gotten involved in creating economic stability for themselves. So instead of going to beg, they have created a market, and they are supplying their market on a daily basis, right? Some persons might say, oh, this looks a little primitive, but remember, they're working with what they have after having such a hard time with the hurricanes and the different disasters. So we are very proud of them, and I'm positive they're going to be growing and will be doing marvelously. And we see that is a brick oven. You see the fire flaring up in there? Right, so that's a brick oven. And there are different types of ovens, right? So if you should ask some of our great grandmothers, if they're around still, they'll tell you about even making those ovens from the kerosene pan. And a lot of people don't even know what a kerosene pan is, but they used to cut them and make some ovens, and they would bake all sorts of different things in those ovens, puddings and things like that. So using what you have, and we're looking at the development of the products from the breadfruit, and I'm showing you one that is in progress right now in Haiti. They're using what they have and they are doing it. Now, with these products that have come on, we are getting more and more persons to appreciate the taste. More and more persons are now appreciating the breadfruit, appreciating its nutritive value. And from Something Country, I would like to just show you some of the products that we do. And this is not on a video, so we're going to stop sharing. So here we are. So this is the breadfruit bulla, not yet with its label because we're still in the manufacturing mode. What has happened? Oh, we went a little dark. So this is the breadfruit bulla. And you see the size and you see the color and all of that. So it looks like a typical Jamaican bulla. And I must tell you, it tastes good. Not because I made it, but still, right? It tastes too good. And we have persons who surprisingly have shown that this doesn't normally only pair with cheese. Most people think about bulla and cheese and bulla and pear and bulla and butter, but I have heard about bulla and fish. Even this week, I have had persons who are buying their bullas and they are frying up their fish with their escovitch and they are pairing up bulla and fish. One little boy said that he loves it with fried chicken. So bulla and chicken. So again, we're moving away from the traditional ideas that you must have bulla with pear, must have bulla with something else. And that mindset is what can stem and foster creativity and foster ingenuity and foster the development of all sorts of new products. Because if we move away from it must be with this and this, then we will come up with something new. Who to tell you might be a franchise owner who serves bulla sandwiches, bulla chicken sandwich with lettuce and cheese. Who knows? Have we tried it? No, we can't knock it before we try it. So your imagination is the limit, right? So this is the bulla. And right now, this bulla we are giving, we have sponsors who have donated it to schools such as Crystal House. And we have a number of basic schools in Jeffertown area who they have gotten the bulla as part of their food supplements, right? Because you know, without good food, you can't learn. Because children, tell the truth. When the worms in your belly going rugga, 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 you don't hear the teacher saying 2 + 2 equals 4. We don't hear it. All we hear are the worms, right? So then we have another breadfruit product right here, and this is the breadfruit oatmeal cookie. And you'd say, oh, breadfruit oatmeal cookie, what's that? So it's a traditional oatmeal cookie, but again, at its base, we have breadfruit, and then we added another traditional food, which is cassava. So this is breadfruit and cassava. So some persons say, I don't eat cassava, but they are only thinking about it boiled or in bami form, but it can be had in different ways and becomes very palatable and nutrient rich, still there, and you can use it. So that's the breadfruit oatmeal cookie. And these are from something country. Now we have another, as I told you, these are still in the packaging process, so the label is not on it. So this one is a breadfruit cookie again, but this one is big and broad and light and can be had with your ice cream and your different things like that. And this is a pizzelle. So we're looking at how can you turn that fruit into something value added. And here is one of them. And we also have another cookie. This one is called vegan treat, no eggs. And we use what we call chia seeds. So the persons know we are using up our seeds and our grains and our nuts and creating things that are good for you and things also that you can find readily. So this one is not from something country. This one is from Jeffertown's Farmers Association, and it's called Jet. Their brand is called Jettown Products. And this is a dumpling mix made from breadfruit. So if you like dumpling, you can have dumpling made from breadfruit. And they have pancake mixes as well. So we have a number of persons who are diving into value-added products from the breadfruit. I met a lovely young lady, and she has her brand, and it's called a Fimi On, right? And she's doing chips and different things, salted chips, seasoned chips made from breadfruit, and she has other lines with cassava and sweet potatoes and all of that. But we're looking at, you do not only have to do roast and fry, right? Your imagination can take you anywhere. So all you have to do, think about it, get over the stigma, get rid of being coward, and get brave and let us go into the kitchen, go into the farm. If you have a little backyard, start farming. You never know, your wealth might just be in the soil. And let us become innovative and productive citizens. All right, everybody, I thank you. And that's it.
Okay, thanks, Karlene, for such a wonderful presentation. You captured me right throughout, and I think that's a good sign. And I do know that you captured our audience for today, and they did learn something very interesting, and you added to their knowledge and how much they can experience with not just the breadfruit, but other things that can be locally found here in Jamaica. So I would like to ask if there are any questions for Ms. Johnson from the presentation. Do anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? You can go ahead right now, or you can type in the chat and I'll relay that question. Anybody?
Yes, come with your questions.
I heard somebody. Or you guys want me to ask you questions? Let me see if anybody was really listening to the presentation. Okay, so I'm just going to randomly call on persons, and persons share with me today what they learned, something new, because trust me, somebody must learn something new from this presentation, because I did. So I'm just going to randomly call on persons for them to share with us today what they learned from the presentation. All right, so eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I'm gonna know the rest, but Kalila Cole, would you like to go and share with us what you learned today from the presentation? Kalila, are you there? All right, let me go to David Peterkin. David Peterkin, are you there? Can you share with us what you learned today? Charmaine, are you going to share with us? Or it's not allowing them to unmute Tiona? Can you? All right, okay, hold on. Okay, you can go ahead now, Khalil, okay, or David.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right. What have I learned that's new? I've learned about the local products, the bulla and the cookies that are being made. I was interested in this presentation because I heard about the fact that we were producing breadfruit flour in Jamaica, and this is gluten-free and there's a big market for export for it. So I was wondering if Mrs. Johnson had explored exporting this stuff, or was solely focused on just supplying the local market with our wonderful breadfruit flour.
Okay, are you hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing.
All right, so the thing is, we are 1 year old in food production. Former teacher working full time and couldn't get everything together, so left the classroom, and it's just 1 year old. So in a year, we have been exploring what products best fit the market, whether local or export. Now, there are persons abroad who have tasted the product and they are interested, but there are always steps that we have to take to get everything ready for the export market. So there are some, what you call now, legal hurdles and different standards we have to meet, and we're working assiduously at that to get things all ready to export. Now, there are companies out here that do export. There's Chevrolet International. They are located in the Spanish Town area, and they are exporting right now breadfruit flour. No, I'm not sure if it's to the US market or to another market, but they are currently exporting breadfruit flour. So they are at the stage where they have met all the criteria for the export market. Now, there are also small exporters such as Rita Hilton. Her company, Carita exports breadfruit flour as well. So it's not a large network, but there are persons within the network that they have already reached the standards to do so. And as a young company myself, we're working towards that because there is interest for the products from these markets. But one of the things I'll say, everything costs, and to get all of the requirements done, it will take, some financial help. And I basically started this company out of saving. So right now, to get everything done, it will take a little time if there are no investors who come along. So there's always an opening for investors, and then that would push the process of getting us on the export market. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And I love the trajectory that you're on, out of the classroom into your own business and pushing for export in the near future. Very good.
Well, out of the classroom, but still not out of teaching. What I have found is that a lot of us limit teaching and learning to the four walls of the classroom, but the world is our classroom. So if it is that we're just limited to what is on the pen and with the pen and the paper in the four walls of the school, then we're truly missing the whole impetus and the whole drive for what education is. Because in the schools, you're supposed to be learning how to learn. And we teach the skills, how you are to go out there and to continue to acquire knowledge and how to make an impact in society. So basically, I think what I'm doing is still teaching, but on a larger platform outside of the four walls of school.
Okay, thank you, Miss Johnson, for that. All right, so I have some comments in the chat section. So from Charmaine James, she's saying that I've learned that they use breadfruit to make flour. She never knew about that, and I know it's not only Charmaine in this presentation. A lot of persons in here did not know that we do have breadfruit flour, and to what extent we can use the breadfruit.
We even have persons exporting, right?
Exactly. So from Lelika Johnson, she's saying that just wondering if the Nutrition Products Limited that supplies stuff to the infant and primary school is looking into using breadfruit to make their buns and bullas.
Well, I'm not sure if they are, but it would be something that they could do. But I'll say this, right? When something is new and there are no large manufacturers, say for the flour, then a lot of the bigger companies will not be ready, or they won't take the risk of taking it on, because all of us as business persons have to look at supply and demand and your ability to supply the raw material that you need in order to fulfill the demand. So if it is that the nutrition bakeries for the school programs, they want it, then we definitely would have to ramp up the production of breadfruit flour. And there are opportunities for the 4-H groups. There are opportunities for all sorts of different community groups who could come in at that level and create the flour, because we have breadfruit going to waste all year round. Most persons have a breadfruit tree in their yard. They eat how many breadfruit for this season? You can eat so much and no more because it will come through your noses. So no. So what do you do with the rest? You step on it, you slip and you break your back. All sorts of different things, and it messes up the yard. You throw it to the pigs and all of that. And so we're looking at not only value-added products, but we're looking at food security. We're looking at, we have a war going on that is affecting everything across the world. So you're looking at, I need packaging material, and the packaging material, I can't get it from the company. Why? Because there are shipment issues going on. So if it is, we need to be able to feed ourselves. We have to look at what we have in abundance and know how to use it to create foods that will be palatable, not only palatable, but be nutrient rich and all of that. So it's larger than a lot of us think, because as I told you, we are having major shipment issues, and a lot of our foods on our shelves, they're imported. Just walk into the supermarket and you will realize that check where it is made. And if those supply chains should cut, what is going to happen? So we have to look at what we have and what we have in abundance and learn to appreciate it. And not only appreciate it, but to look at it through new lenses. Not just the lens of granny used to cook it so I saw it must cook. And that's something else. We think that food can only be cooked one way. But here's the thing, we have opened up our world, we have opened up our worldview, because we have now access to the internet, access to all these things. We don't need children, and I'm saying this to you especially, you don't need to just be stuck on the games and different things. It's a wealth of information available at your fingertips, and you can use it to also expand the lines of what you do and to foster your creativity. So you don't necessarily have to be stuck in the rut of just doing what it is we have seen or poor parents doing, and that is the only way it can be done.
Thank you for those valuable points, Karlene. Do we hope that persons are taking notes? Because Karlene made a very valuable point. What if the supply should be cut from Jamaica? What would we do? And we do have a lot of resources here. We do have a lot of fruits and stuff here that we can use to make products and also to make a living from. All right, so from Kalila is saying that I learned that we can change the traditions with breadfruit. Thanks, Kalila, for that comment. Eartha Cole, breadfruit flour and value-added products is nutrient rich. It would be very useful added nutrition in the schools on a wider scale, in the food and nutrition clubs, and perhaps for a canteen in general, and the 4-H clubs. So thank you, Eartha, for your suggestions as well, and I thank everyone for participating in our question and our answer segment. I'll now hand over to Ms. Thomas, who will do the final segment for this presentation. Thank you all.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Can I just interrupt for 1 minute? One last question.
Sure, you can go ahead.
We know that breadfruit flour is gluten-free. Do you have to add wheat flour to your products in order to get them to take shape and all of that, or is it that pure breadfruit flour can be used?
Okay, it depends on what product you are making. Because every product has a different texture, and each one goes to a different, might go to a different baking methodology as well. Now for us, we have a gluten-free line, and those are the cookies, and we use cassava as the base for that, because cassava has the starch and all of that, so it helps to bind. So on its own, it doesn't really bind well unless you maybe heat it, and then it comes more like a cornmeal type of thing. So if you use different binders, You could use eggs, you could use chia seeds, you could use different things, then it will bind. But note that the baking of these products is going to be different from baking the wheat flour, because the gluten, it doesn't have the gluten, and gluten helps to speed up the baking process. So for each of these flours, you definitely have to experiment and learn the nuances of any flour. So if it's cassava, sweet potato, or whatever, you still have to learn the nuances, the differences of how the flour works and what temperature, the bake time. And these flours, because they are not bleached and nothing has been extracted from them per se, then the bake time for them is normally longer as well. So yes, some of the products we use cassava as the bind plus eggs. For the eggless ones, we use chia seeds, things that have that gelatinous texture that will help to bind the bonds of the flour.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. It was very informative. I've learned a lot. I've learned about the history of the breadfruit. I've learned about how the stigma came about. And I've also seen how we're erasing all of those stigma. My question to you is, how receptive are persons towards these breadfruit products? Because I know it's new, you know.
Okay, so how receptive have they been? Let's say for the bulla, there is an open-eyed reaction like bulla, breadfruit, and then they will get over the little shock, and then they taste it, and then they're like, but it tastes like bulla. I don't know what they expected it to taste like, but yes, when they taste it, they say, but it's bulla. Again, breadfruit on its own doesn't really have any potent taste, but in our minds, we still want to taste breadfruit. I don't know if we want to taste the charred skin of a roasted breadfruit, but there's something for us in our minds when you say breadfruit. We want that dominant breadfruit taste, and yet breadfruit has a mild taste, and that's why it pairs well with salted things such as salt fish, and it pairs well with your savory things because of the mild taste. Even if it has a little sweetness to it, it's not dominant. Unless you go for the ripened fruit, and then you're going to have to go through a whole other process to learn how to work with the ripened fruit, because then that is more sugar than starch.
Wow, interesting.
Right.
Oh,
and if you notice, what you'll notice, this is a lot of science. So although I'm not a science-based person, it takes a lot of research too.
Right.
So to get into what you're doing, do not limit yourself. If you can research, if you have the drive, the tenacity to go after what you want, you'll have to put in the hours. You'll have to put in the time. And for our kids, do not take failure as a means to stop. Because some of the times, the things that you fail at, you were aiming, the man who was aiming to make the telephone, Alexander Bell, he ended up making an hearing aid first. So persons were aiming to do something else, and they created something of value. But do not take your failures to mean that I am done, I'm never doing it again, because what you might consider a failure might be a great success for something else.
Well, thank you very much. I am inspired. I am motivated. This was a wonderful presentation. And also it was very interesting to see how, our Caribbean neighbors are also utilizing the breadfruit, to help, the different communities. So once more, Ms. Johnson, I want to tell you, thank you on behalf of the Natural History Museum of Jamaica for taking the time out of your very, very busy schedule to be our presenter for our session today on our Biodiversity Awareness Program. I do wish for you much more success in your business and your future endeavors. I also want to tell persons, thank you for joining with us. We have our schools such as Chandler's Pen Primary and Infant, and we also have Independence City Primary with us today. We are grateful for you guys' presence, and our non-schoolers, thank you all for being here with us today. And also, if you want to relearn all that you have learned today, feel free to go over to our YouTube channel to rewatch today's session, as it has been live streamed and will be saved on our YouTube channel, which is Natural History Museum of Jamaica. So once more, thank you guys all for being here, and do enjoy the rest of your Friday sessions.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.